Watch later. Welcome, everyone, to Biblical Foundation, the book of Genesis, the book of beginnings. Welcome to class 22. What a blessing to be with you this evening. So we have started a new chapter in the most incredible book, the book of Genesis. So we're starting and reviewing what we already started last week in Genesis chapter 4. So let's start right away. Pedro, can you please read Genesis 4:1 in English, please?
And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord.
Beautiful. Let me see if I can read as well in Portuguese. E conheceu Adão e Eva, sua mulher, e ela concebeu e deu à luz a Caim, e disse, alcancei do Senhor homem. All right, so as always, we repeat only the Bible verses in Portuguese to make sure there is no confusion as to what the Lord said. You can be confused about what any of us say in English, but we cannot be confused about what the Lord said. So Lucas, can you please read question A in English?
What does the biblical term to know mean here?
Beautiful. Very good pronunciation, Lucas, as always. Okay, so what does that biblical term to know mean here? Okay, in a pure way to describe it, a biblical way to describe it.
Because God created Eve from his costela. I don't know the name in English.
Well, it's like right here,
Rib.
right? Rib.
Rib.
Exactly right.
I remember. And so I think to know is to be with and to realize or something like that.
Very good. Absolutely. And does anyone remember what we said last class? It's kind of a nice, even more specific than what Danny just said. So in the Bible, to know often means to perform the marriage duties. Okay, so for a husband to know the wife, they are performing the marriage duties. So Danny, can you please read question B in English?
Okay. Why would Eve exclaim, I have gotten a man from the Lord?
All right, well read, thank you. All right, so why would it sounds like Eve is very happy. Well, why did she exclaim, I have gotten a man from the Lord?
I think because she knows that it's a miracle.
Agreed. Agreed. Now, but why would it be a miracle in this situation? Because remember, back in Genesis 1:28, I think, is the dominion mandate. And the dominion mandate is to, I'm just confirming, yes. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply. So God had told them to know each other, be fruitful and multiply. And so why, if that was the commandment, why would this seem like a miracle to Eve? And I agree, it was. Why?
Maybe because of the consequences of sin.
Exactly right, Emily. Okay, because God had just punished them, and he had told them they were going to die. So if they're going to die, maybe that's it. Maybe there's no more creating life. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that God had made a huge promise to Eve, saying that her seed, singular, okay, so not like all her descendants. We
Mhm.
believe this from Genesis 3:15, I think, right? It's the first amazing messianic prophecy in the Bible. And yes, it's 3:15. And God is saying to the serpent, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between the serpent seed, and her seed. And so we believe that her seed refers to Jesus Christ. And so she is believing now that despite the sin, God's promise that through her descended from Eve, her seed, the Messiah, will conquer. Okay, so it's rather complicated, but it's like, wow, there's a lot of things happening in the Garden of Eden right now. So this is, it doesn't say why Eve is relieved. So we're just guessing. So what I'd say is, she exclaims, I have gotten a man from the Lord, because she's relieved. She still has a place in history now. She will have children, and her seed will conquer, and even conquer death eventually. Praise the Lord.
Of the Lord, right? The miser, the misericórdia,
The mercy.
mercy, thank you, the mercy,
Yeah.
the mercy of the Lord.
All right, so she was grateful, she was relieved. Okay, so Emily, can you please read Genesis 4:2 in English?
And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground.
Very good. Let me see if I can do as well with the Portuguese. E deu à luz mais a seu irmão Abel. E Abel foi pastor de ovelhas, e Caim foi lavrador da terra.
Very good.
When it's close to the English, sometimes it's a challenge. Different pronunciation. Okay, so Monica, can you please read question C in English?
Okay. The second generation of mankind already had work specializations. Why is that significant?
Okay, so this is like a interesting question. So the first generation of mankind are Adam and Eve. Second generation, the generation of their children, is so far just Abel and Cain. But they have work specialization. Instead of everyone doing everything together, right? They didn't both go and keep sheep. They didn't both till the ground. One became a farmer, and the other became a shepherd. So that's work specialization. Now, why is that significant?
That's interesting. I think maybe because from an evolution point of view, mankind took years and years to even develop gold and all kinds of minérios. I don't know the name in English.
Minerals.
Minerals, yes, but it was actually very, very fast, right? By God's grace.
Absolutely right. It's like it took one generation. Now, and you're absolutely right. The way that evolutionists and the whole world, let's be honest, the whole world says the history of man, they started out in caves. You remember? It's like primitive men in caves. And they're like Fred Flintstone. I don't know if you ever saw the old cartoons from the US. Fred Flintstone has his big club, and he
Mhm.
has a fur skin, kind of funny colors, and he goes bam, bam. They were hunter. So this is what the world thinks, that early humans were hunter and gatherers. So they hunted animals and then they gathered the meat. And according to the world and according to evolutionists, it took many, many generations for those hunter and gatherers who were like nomads to settle down and start to farm. Okay, they say it took until the development of iron instruments. All right, so that they needed technology, and then it made farming, tilling the ground, possible. And they said it takes many, many generations. No, God said immediately. Okay, immediately, second generation. So that's kind of fun. So let's go on. So Pedro, can you please read Genesis chapter 4, verses 3 to 4, please, in English?
And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground and offering unto the Lord. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering.
Beautifully pronounced. Thank you. So let me try that in Portuguese. E aconteceu ao cabo de dias que Caim trouxe do fruto da terra uma oferta ao Senhor. E Abel também trouxe dos primogênitos das suas ovelhas e da sua gordura. E atentou o Senhor para Abel e para a sua oferta. Okay, big things are happening. Big things are always happening in the Bible. Right? It looks, oh, no, big things are happening. Big changes are coming. So, Lucas, can you please read question D in English? Question D.
Where did the need to make an offering unto the Lord come from?
Very good. Excellent pronunciation. So, do you remember from last class? Did somewhere in the Bible prior to Genesis 4:4, did someone tell Cain and Abel to make an offering?
No.
Yeah, we
Where?
don't see. Yeah, we don't see it. So in other words, the answer to question D is we don't know. But we can assume they were told to do this. Okay, you don't just naturally get born, grow up, tend to sheep or tend to till the ground and farm and say, oh, I have to take an offering to the Lord. Someone told them, probably their parents, probably Adam and Eve told them, because probably God told Adam and Eve. So these are all guesses, but let's move on. So Danny, can you please read question E in English?
What day of the week and where did this offering possible occur?
Okay, possibly.
Possibly occur.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay, so
you.
this is more speculation because the Bible doesn't say. It doesn't say what day of the week it was, and it doesn't say where it occurred. It sounds like it's in a field somewhere, but what do you think? What do you think?
Maybe it's the day of the Lord in Saturday.
Okay, or better than, I agree with you. But instead of calling it Saturday, let's call it the day of rest or the seventh day.
Seventh day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because though for the Jews, yeah, Saturday was that day, but for Christians later it changes. But that's very good. Okay, I love it. So if it had to happen, if an offering to the Lord had to occur on a certain day, it was likely the seventh day and day of rest. Where might this have occurred?
Where? We don't know, but maybe in the top of the mountain.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're thinking of Abraham and Isaac and but here back in Genesis 3, what was the last thing that God did in chapter 3? Remember, he expelled Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, and he put a cherubim to protect the gate. And you put a cherubim to protect the gate because you don't want people to go in.
Mhm.
And we also surmised that cherubim are always in the close presence of the Lord. And so if there's a cherubim out and at the gate of the Garden of Eden, then maybe God is still in the Garden of Eden. So because remember, God is omnipresent, yet remember, God walked in the garden with Adam. Okay, so somehow it's not an incarnation like Jesus Christ, but somehow God's presence was specially in the garden. And so we can guess that perhaps the offering was made at the gate to the garden. Okay, because they couldn't go in the gate, but they could come up to the gate and make an offering, and somehow God's presence was inside the garden. Okay, so all of this is it's interesting to think, because if you have a cherubim at the Garden of Eden, and the Garden of Eden likely continued, the Bible doesn't mention the Garden of Eden again. But as we discussed last week, when it likely continued until when? Until Noah's flood. All right, because Noah's flood then changed all the earth. So what was a garden in the Garden of Eden was destroyed.
And then,
yes,
the place for us to know is important because of the consequence after that, or because of the offering, the way that Abel offering and the way that Cain offered.
Agreed entirely. And we're going to discuss now why God respected Abel's offering and did not respect Cain's offering. So exactly right. All right, so let's continue. Emily, now we're starting new study material that we didn't cover last week. So Emily, can you please read Genesis 4:5 in English, please?
But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell.
That's countenance.
Oh, countenance.
So remember, the emphasis in English is always, or almost always, closer up. Very good. That's a new word. And you know what countenance is? Well, we'll see. I'm going to read the Portuguese. So I'll try. Mas para Caim e para a sua oferta não atentou. E irou-se Caim fortemente, e descaiu-lhe o semblante. Semblante. Okay, so
Is it Countenance.
Exactly. So countenance is like the face. So his face fell. Okay. No one's countenance can fall during the Bible class, okay? All right, the countenance here is always up. Okay, so very well read, Emily. And then Monica, can you please read question 1 in English?
Okay. Why do you think God did not respect Cain's offering?
Okay, so what was the problem? What was God's problem? I mean, here they're bringing him presents.
Mhm.
Normally, we should be happy with all presents and say thank you.
I may I answer? Try to. Um, maybe it's because Cain's offer not the with his all heart, with his all intention, and he with his all thankful. He's not thankful for all this.
Okay.
And God, I think God sees the difference between Cain and Abel.
I think you're saying maybe God can see their heart.
Yes, the heart.
And I think that's likely very true. Is there another reason why maybe God did not accept? And remember, what he accepted from Abel was, when we have it right here, he brought the firstling of his flock. Firstlings, we saw the Portuguese, this is like the firstborn sheep and the fat thereof. Okay, so it was like a firstborn sheep in good condition with plenty of fat. Okay, and God said, that's nice. And
I think it's because without shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. So
absolutely.
I think maybe Cain tried to please the Lord in his own way, but obedience is better than sacrifice, right?
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right, Emily. Beautifully, because there was no blood sacrifice. Okay, so the sheep, the firstborn sheep was sacrificed. There was blood and fat. And so what Abel brought attended to God's conditions. And again, how do we know? All we can guess is that Adam and Eve had told Cain and Abel what kind of offering God wanted. And Abel obeyed, as Emily pointed out, but it looks like, Abel obeyed, and it looks like Cain brought what he thought was good. So now let's go ahead. So Pedro, can you read question 2, please?
On the other hand, why did he respect Abel's offering?
Okay, so we've partially answered this, but why did God respect Abel's offering?
Because, in simple words, because his offering was best.
It was best. And why was it best?
Because he gave the first lamb of the flock.
Excellent. Very
And
good English. First lamb of the flock. Excellent.
thanks. And as Emily said, that he respects the man, he obeyed the mandament of the Lord.
Okay, very good. Excellent, Pedro. And very good
Thanks.
English vocabulary. Just excellent. All right. Now, often part of the answer is in the next verse. So all of this is true, but let's take a look at the next verse as well. So Lucas, who's our fantastic pronunciator, the first time. He looks at something and he pronounces it beautifully the first time he looks at it. So very good. So Lucas, can you please read Hebrews 11:4? Hebrews chapter 11, verse 4 in English, please.
By faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, but which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it he being did yet speak.
Very good. That third to last word is not D, it's dead. D-E-A-D, dead. But very well pronounced. Very good, Lucas. So it looks to me like for Emily and Monica, they just lost their power. So the lights went out and then the signal went. So we'll see if they come back. But usually when they lose power in Jaguarão, it takes some time to come back. So we may have lost them. All right, let me try Hebrew 11:4 in English. Pela fé, Abel ofereceu a Deus maior sacrifício do que Caim, pelo qual alcançou testemunho de que era justo, dando Deus testemunho dos seus dons, e por ela, depois de morto, ainda fala. Okay, so amazing here. Look at this. So where is part of the answer in this verse? So in Hebrews, which I believe, oh, here's Emily. Good.
Hi, so
I think the lights went out.
yes, and they go back at the same
Good.
time.
That was fast. Okay, so welcome back. So we just read Hebrews 11:4 in English and then in Portuguese. And maybe I left the answer here, but the first two words of Hebrews 11:4 says, by faith, Abel offered unto God. So part of the answer of why did he respect Abel's offering is he was a man of faith. So Abel believed in what his parents, what Adam and Eve told him on what kind of offering God needs and respects. And so apparently he's a man of obedience and faith. Okay, a more excellent sacrifice. And it interestingly, it says by which he obtained witness that he was righteous. Okay, so his act of faith showed his righteousness, which is a very good sign, okay, when God finds one righteous. Okay, so it was a faithful act deemed righteous, and so we have to believe that Adam had shared all of God's instructions. So let's move on. We changed the order a little bit. So Emily, can you please read question 3 in English?
Where is Abel in the Faith Hall of Fame of Hebrews chapter 11?
Okay, so remember Hebrews chapter 11 is the Faith Hall of Fame. By faith, it tells all the great men and women of faith in history. So where was Abel in this list? Any guesses? Yeah.
Right after creation, the first.
You're absolutely right. Okay, so this is something. we just saw, remember, Abel's life was quite short. This was the first spiritual act, let's say, by Abel. Yet it was such an important act that he enters the Faith Hall of Fame as the first example of a man of faith. Okay, so that's a high compliment. He's the first man. All right, so did Adam or Eve enter the Faith Hall of Fame? Okay, so let's see. So Monica, can you please read question 4 in English?
What emotion caused Cain's displeasure at God's reaction?
Very good. So remember, we're still referring to Genesis 4, verse 5, where it says, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So what kind of emotion do you think Cain, what emotion in Cain caused his displeasure at God's reaction? What was Cain's problem? To simplify, what was Cain's problem?
His sin.
Okay, he's about to sin, that's for sure. But what are we seeing here? So imagine he gave something, he offered something to God, and God says, that falls.
Jealous.
Go ahead, Danny.
Jealous. Cain's.
Yes, absolutely right. So he's partly just a jealous brother. All right.
Yeah.
So God showed respect to Abel, and Cain was like,
Why not me?
Exactly. And what's the other thing? Maybe pride. Okay. So Cain, I mean, what an incredible, imagine you're talking to God, you're in the presence of God, and you're angry at God. You're like, that is like really dumb. Okay, you don't want to be angry at God. So to be angry at God, you have to be full of pride. In his presence, angry at God in his presence. I mean, wow. Can you imagine? Very hard. So
Yes.
so I think so. Monica, Danny, can you please read Genesis 4:6, please, in English?
And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth and wrath, and why is thy countenance fallen?
Okay, very good. Let me try that in Portuguese. O Senhor disse a Caim, por que te iraste? E por que descaiu o teu semblante? I don't think God was very happy with Cain's reaction. So here we go. But next question. And Lucas, can you please read question 5 in English?
Does God's question allow for Cain having made an honest mistake?
Very well pronounced, Lucas. Congratulations. You aced it. Okay. Aced it. Okay, so what do you think? So what I'm getting at is God, remember, God knows everything. He's not asking because he doesn't know. He's asking to elicit a response to make Cain think. And
the honest response, right?
Yeah. And his response also is for posterity. So it's not only for Cain's benefit, it's for our benefit.
Mhm.
And so God says this to Cain, and so that we can learn something from it. So when I say God's question, does it allow for Cain having made an honest mistake?
No way.
Yeah,
Oh.
no. So it's not like Cain, like, oh, I tried to do my best, and I just like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
I wanted to bring a firstborn lamb, but I forgot. Will you forgive me? No. Okay. God was like, okay, Cain, why are you angry with me? All right. And so why, Cain, are you surprised at my reaction?
I think
That's-
it's similar to it. I remembered, I think it's Eli's sons that offered strange fire, or was it
I don't remember. Yeah.
brother, or the brother of Moses? I don't remember. I
Yeah.
think it was the two sons that offered strange fire in a way that God didn't ask. So
Mhm.
it's important, right, to obey the word.
Absolutely right. And so God is asking, hey, why are you surprised? Why are you why the fallen face? Why are you angry at me? You knew what to do.
Mhm.
Okay, so like wake up, get with it. So now Pedro, can you please read Genesis 4:7 in English?
If thou dost is correct. Dost,
Doest.
doest. If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou dost not well, sin life as the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him.
Very good. Now, so those two words that have a slightly older English, but you're tending to pronounce dost and life, but it's doest and lieth. Okay.
Lion,
Yeah, so it's separating the vowel sounds. So it's lieth, doest.
do it.
Okay, let me try that in
Okay.
Portuguese. Very good. Se bem fizeres, não é certo que serás aceito. E se não fizeres bem, o pecado jaz à porta. E sobre ti será o seu desejo, mas sobre ele deves dominar. Wow.
Mhm.
God speaks, he packs a wallop. Okay, a wallop is a good word. It's like, if I can wallop, I think that's how you spell it, like bam, wallop. God does not mince words. We're giving you lots of good new vocabulary. He doesn't mince words, like, all right, he doesn't like use small little words and go, you didn't know, he's like big words, right on target. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so let's go now. Emily, can you please read question 6 in English?
Cain did not doest well. What were the consequences for him?
Okay, so what God just said to Cain sounds to me like it was a punishment,
Mhm.
right? So he just told him, from what you just did, bam, bam, bam. So what's the consequences for Cain?
Mhm. The blood of Abel.
That's
will
coming.
claim.
Yeah, but
Uh-huh.
but that hasn't happened yet.
Ah, okay, okay.
But maybe okay, but you're saying yes. That's a result of this. But what is God saying in verse 4:7?
4:7. Ah, okay. Because the consequence of sin, right?
Exactly. So remember, he says,
So you,
go ahead, Danny.
Mhm. So God has the how can I say mandamentos? God, the command. God has his command. So the way we have to be obedient,
Agreed.
right?
Okay. But what in this verse does he now directly tell Cain the consequences of his bad offering? Well, he says, if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. Okay, so all right, so you do what you did, Cain. Sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. It's a little complicated, but it's saying sin will be Cain's desire. Okay, rule over it, it'll be like that will be his one possession. The sin. Okay, so to rule over it is like that's the only thing you're going to rule over, Cain. Sin is going to be your offspring. Think of it that way. It's like that's your territory. So sin is your desire, and it will be the only thing you have. Ouch. So Monica, can you please read question 7 in English?
Okay. The language "thou shalt rule over him" reminds us of what? Prior punishment.
Very good. Okay, so where have we heard that before? Thou shalt rule over him. Over thee. Any thoughts?
Punishment and the woman.
Yep, absolutely right. So it's Eve's punishment. And it's very close. The wording is very close. Oops, that's the Portuguese. Here we are. And thy desire shall be, this is verse 3:16. So God speaking to Eve, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Okay, so very similar wording in these two punishments. So let's go on. So that was Monica. Danny, can you please read Genesis 4:8 in
And Cain talked with Abel and his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him.
Right, slew him. And it's Cain. You're pronouncing that a little more like the Portuguese pronunciation. Cain.
Cain.
Very good. Yeah, and I think Cain sounds worse in English, like Cain. Oh, it's a tough word.
Cain.
Yeah, it's a bad word and a bad person. E falou Caim como seu irmão Abel. E sucedeu que, estando eles no campo, se levantou Caim contra o seu irmão Abel e o matou. Ouch. That's what we call. Sorry, Danny?
No, it's just pronounce again. Slew him. I didn't know this verb. Slew him.
Yeah, to slay. That's the past tense of slay. And I'm putting, this is a real, so slay is the same as to kill. Okay. There, oops. So slay and kill are synonymous. And what we have we have a very serious case, the most serious case of sibling rivalry in history, in that they're rivals, right? They're fighting. The two brothers are fighting. Actually, it is only Cain fighting against Abel, and it's the worst sibling rivalry possible. The jealous brother kills the other. So, Lucas, can you please read? And I know that Pedro and Lucas are loving brothers. Okay. All right. So no sibling rivalry between Pedro and Lucas. I've seen them in action together. They're beautiful together. Okay. Their behavior is beautiful. And so go ahead, Lucas, please read question 8 in English.
What perhaps was Satan's motive behind this tragic result?
Very nice.
Succeed.
Oops.
Corrupt
Oh,
was
I left. I'm sorry. I left the answer. My fault. Okay. So you can stop at tragic result. And very well pronounced. Thank you, Lucas. The rest is my answer. I should have erased it. I should have gone like this, but I forgot. Okay, so you already see my opinion. So Satan's motive behind, because remember, Satan is behind this. And so why did he help make this happen? Well, we can only guess. Well, just think, maybe he can stop the seed, her seed that God had just promised. God had just promised that her seed will conquer the serpent seed. And so it's like, okay, so you mean her descendant will conquer my descendant? What if I kill Eve's descendant? The good one, right? So this is like Abel is the good one. So I'm going to get Cain to kill Abel. So much for God's prophecy. Ha 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 ha. Okay, so maybe that's Satan's thinking to stop the seed. So in other words, he corrupted one brother to kill the other. Ouch. What drama. Okay, so that was Lucas, beautifully read. And then Pedro, can you please read Genesis 4:9 in English?
And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper?
Wow, incredible verse. Okay, so that is verse 9. Let me try that in Portuguese. E disse o Senhor a Caim, onde está Abel, teu irmão? E ele disse, não sei. Sou eu guardador do meu irmão? Okay, wow. So let's go. Emily, can you please read question 9 in English?
The famous phrase, "Am I my brother's?"
Oh, sorry, number 9. You're reading 10.
Oh, sorry.
Not at all.
Does God not know where Abel is?
Okay, what do you think?
He knows all things.
Of course he knows where Abel is. So again, it's to elicit a reply. God doesn't need the information. He needs Cain to reply honestly. And then now, Monica, can you finish us up with question number 10 in English, please?
The famous phrase, am I my brother's keeper, in any way godly?
Okay, so first of all, I don't know if that's famous in Portuguese, but in English, it's very famous. The phrase, am I my brother's keeper? So many worldly people will they'll use it like, hey, why are you asking me about this? Am I my brother's keeper? They still use it.
It's a terrible sentence to use.
Right.
I never heard that. I don't think in Brazil it's that famous.
Okay, good. You see, we're worse off that we have lots of people who repeat Cain's phrase thinking, hey, that's a good phrase. Mistake. So what do you think about this question? The famous phrase, am I my brother's keeper, in any way godly?
No.
No. So why not, Emily? Why is it not godly?
I think it's very disrespectful, especially speaking to the Lord. He should fear the Lord in reverence and not speak to him that way.
I agree. I agree. You're right. It's kind of like in your face, like, hey, why are you asking me about my brother? You know, it's like, am I his father? You know, am I God? Am I supposed to take care of Abel all the time? So that's true. But wait a second. Go ahead, Danny.
And especially because he was lying, right? Again,
Yeah.
and he was how can I say, not blaming, but he was like a
Avoiding. Well, so,
avoiding.
yeah.
Ele tava, he's a little bit soberbo. It's like a rude
Yeah,
way.
agreed.
God.
You're right. He's I mean, to think that God doesn't know and that you can lie to God again is like,
Yes.
like,
Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
It is.
What are you doing with your life, man?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but the interesting thing about his phrase, I am my brother's keeper, what do you think Jesus would say about that?
I am your keeper.
Absolutely right. Jesus would say the opposite.
Yes.
Okay, you are your brother's keeper.
Mhm.
You are to look after and now speaking broadly, not just your blood brother. It's like all brothers. You are your neighbor. You have to love your neighbor. You have to keep your neighbor. You have to love your enemy. Crazy, crazy, difficult thing. So here we have like the anti-Christ philosophy. Am I my brother's keeper?
Mhm.
The exact,
Like it's not my business, like
exactly.
this.
It's not my responsibility.
My responsibility.
Okay. When,
But in this case was all responsibility, right?
yeah.
Because he
slew. Yes.
his brother.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway, so isn't that interesting? So, you know, there are not too many evil phrases in the Bible before this. Okay, so remember the serpent was only speaking a few times. So when he promised to Eve, you can be like a goddess. Okay, be like the gods. Now that's an evil phrase. Okay, but here we are. Here's the first really evil phrase said by a human being. Okay, so Cain saying, am I my brother's keeper? Is probably the worst thing any man had said until this point. Okay, and it's the exact opposite of what Jesus Christ teaches. So there we are. We're right on time. Are there any questions in English before I stop the recording?
I have one. In the number 8,
Yes.
what does perhaps means?
Oh, good question. So what do you think from the context? What perhaps was Satan's motive? What do you think, just the way I say it? What perhaps was Satan's motive? I'll give you a synonym in English.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so perhaps and maybe are synonymous. Okay, so, or another way you could write it, and this is the richness of the English language is immense. So you can also say possibly. It's one reason why poems in English are so good, so sophisticated, because there are many synonyms. And so when you write poetry in English, there's many words that are similar, and then they rhyme together. They go, so anyway, so good question. Any other questions in English?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna stop that.